Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second edition of Casual Conversation with local women in business. We are so thankful that all of you could join us for lunch. Maybe you're on your lunch hour. So normally our Women in Business luncheon would be about this time. And we are so sad we didn't get to have that this year, but there's still hope that maybe we'll get to reschedule it in the fall. We usually bring in an outside speaker for that event, but since we couldn't have that event, we thought, hey, what about getting to know some of our local professional women in business? You may have seen their names, seen them in the paper, or worked with them, but we wanted you to get to know them even better by having these casual conversations recorded, and that we are recording. So if you missed this, because we know everyone's busy, you can come back at a later time and catch up by getting to know some of these wonderful women. And today we have the privilege of hearing from two amazing women that I have gotten to work closely with over the past several years in very different capacities. And if Lisa could have joined us today, a totally different sector and perspective as well. But we're just getting to know each other. So we're just going to open it up now with introductions and having, starting with Jennifer. Jennifer, if you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe something that is interesting or the audience maybe doesn't know about you.
Interesting. Well, I retired 7 days ago. So there's that. 27 years of teaching business education at Callaway County High School. I'm kind of an anomaly. Same district, same building, same classroom for 27 years. I don't know if I've ever met anybody that did. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but that room was my home. And I always tell everybody that key to that room fit in my hand, just like my key to the back door at my house. And so nothing but positives, memories from those 27 years of teaching business, and excited for my next career. I'm going to go on into more corporate training and educational consulting. So I'm excited for that. I'm too young to knit, and besides I don't knit. So there's that. But anyway, I'm excited to be here today to represent the educational part of professionalism and what I teach. I'm blessed to teach along many professionals, and educators are professionals, and I'm excited to be included in that. So thank you, Chamber, for letting me be here today.
Thank you, Jennifer and Sharon. I don't know that I shared, but Jennifer and Sharon are both Chamber Women in Business Award winners. So that's why we asked them to join us. So I don't think I said that on the opening, but Sharon, if you would just share with us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle, for having us on here. And Jennifer and I are both Murray girls through and through. So that's kind of fun that we've both been here, I guess, our whole life. I certainly have been. Yes. I've been here longer than Jennifer, in case you can't tell. I haven't gotten to cover my gray up since the restrictions loosened up. But anyway, I'm actually working in Louisville this week. I usually work here through the week, and I come home on Fridays and have long weekends at the farm and that kind of thing. But as you all know, several weeks ago, my team here at Kentucky Farm Bureau had been traveling, and everything started shutting down and that kind of thing. We got back into Louisville on a Sunday night, and we're just crazy about what was happening. So we were in the office first thing that Monday morning, and then everyone scattered. So just now are we getting back 2 days a week, 3 days a week, that kind of thing. But as has happened with everyone, it's really changed the way we're doing business. But I have a daughter that lives there in Murray, and 3 of my grandchildren, and a son that lives here in Louisville, and a grandson. So I think I have the best of both worlds. Whichever place I'm working, I have some family here. So that's a great thing. And like I said, I was raised in Murray, Callaway, Murray State. Just Murray through and through. So I'm really happy to represent my community when I'm traveling and represent my industry of agriculture.
Well, you certainly represent us well. I know you are a very hardworking, busy woman across the state, and we are very proud that you are from Callaway County. And speaking of roots, I got mine done on Monday.
Important.
As soon as I heard the governor say it opens on the 25th, I was texting my person.
There you go. I know.
Same.
I can't believe my husband's going to get a haircut before me, but it's going to happen.
Priorities, right? We gotta keep that going. But like you said, Sharon, it just changed the way we do business. And so we kind of watched the news and heard about how this, virus was spreading across, China and then other parts of the world. And I don't know about you, but I just was thinking it wasn't going to be that big of a deal, and then all of a sudden we're having to cancel our events. We hear, the pandemic is here or they declare a pandemic. Tell us, we'll start with Sharon. Tell us, one, your first thoughts on the seriousness of it, and then what kind of you had to change or about business, and especially in agriculture.
Sure. Well, that weekend that I mentioned, last weekend, we were all kind of normal at work, I guess, and we were actually traveling for the company here, and we're supposed to fly across the country. But at the last minute, we decided that we probably shouldn't do that, and let's stay a little closer to home. So we were driving together, had a lot of time in the car and that type of thing. And the first thing was one of the guys got a call about their local church was not going to have services. And how dare someone tell us that we can't have church services, and it was just so hard to believe as everything progressed. And I think it was the first weekend of the SEC tournament, basketball was in full force, and those games started getting canceled, and it was just hard to believe. It really was like watching, and the first time I did this was when the Gulf War happened, but that was the first time that there was that we watched in real time as our nation went to war. Other times in the past, it had just been reported to us, and we really only saw it on the 5 or 6 o'clock news in the evening. But that was the first time I remember that we watched it in real time. And to say we've watched this take place in real time is an understatement. We've been right there in the middle of everything, which I think has also led to our level of anxiety. We're watching everything, and we're hearing every bit of the good news and the bad news, and there is, of course, some of both. But as far as agriculture goes, I had this conversation yesterday with a media rep here at the office, and it hasn't changed the way we've done business in agriculture. And I can truly say that none of my employees, as a matter of fact, Tripp and I have been busier than we would have ordinarily been at this time, but not one of my employees has missed a day of work because of this. And I've done several interviews, and I've told the folks that we were much more worried about the weather than we were the virus as far as our own business goes. And there was still work to do. And, we were kind of puffed up several weeks back when the governor and the president declared ag is an essential business and said you have to keep working and that kind of thing. And we were thinking, well, we always knew we were essential. And obviously we know doctors and nurses and, all those folks are first responders, and they are all obviously essential businesses. But we were kind of happy that the food supply chain was addressed in that way. And as we saw, even though it wasn't a food item, but as we saw, toilet paper got to be so special to us. And as we started to see empty shelves, and now as we see that more with the meat counters and that type of thing, it's really important for people to make those connections with where their food comes from and how safe it is, but also what kind of access we have to it. So a lot of folks have, and maybe it's because we have more time on social media, I don't know, but a lot of folks who have never had a garden are doing that this year. They're just, people are buying local produce, local meats, just really trying to be aware of that kind of thing and keep ourselves, we stay close to home, but sort of keep our business really close to home as well. So that's, it hasn't changed the ag industry in that respect, though it has made that trucking piece of it and the pieces of the supply chain, that's been difficult. It's been hard to get parts. It's really difficult to haul livestock right now and get a processor to accept accept that. So that piece of it has been very difficult. And that's why you're seeing the shortages, not because there's a shortage of a particular crop or a particular animal at all. It's with the transportation issue and the processing piece of it, and being able to make that work during a national crisis.
Such a great perspective. I guess we'll flip to education now. So Jennifer, we know, I mean, I'm a mom of 3 kids, elementary. I had to become a teacher. More than ever, we appreciate everyone for everything that you do in the school system. So tell us, what it was like from your perspective.
Education turned upside down. And the good news for people in business education around the globe, and I've been so excited to connect with people in Canada and down in Chile, actually. I've worked with some teachers. It's all the same for business education teachers because this was our platform. We teach technology. In my classroom, Haley had to endure an entire unit on virtual meetings, etiquette, having your backgrounds, dressing at least from the waist up, how to mute your mic, all those things. And a lot of business teachers did not panic like others did because this was our area. So for my particular industry of education, my sector, we were fine because we went virtual, and it's what we practiced in the classroom. And so a lot of students thrived. Now, what was interesting, Michelle, as to our Wi-Fi issues earlier, is that, it brought up interesting points. You could be on the higher end of the socioeconomic scale in a classroom, and now that you're home, you can live down in the middle of the Timbuktu and have no Wi-Fi, and you can't do your homework that day. And so it was interesting that some students who always had never had any issues suddenly had some real learning challenges because of technology. And so that was an interesting perspective that we had to try to solve. And it was so great here in Kelly County that I know Gina Winchester and I talked a lot. We set up those hotspots around the county for people to come and drive. And that was really important to me as a teacher. That was communicated constantly to all the parents. My daughter teaches at East for elementary. And, it's just interesting that, again, some kids thrived almost better on some homeschooling situations because of their learning styles, and some didn't. And the smaller kids, a lot of paper packets, Michelle, I'm sure, right? And so a lot more paper for a lot of teachers that we weren't used to doing paper. So it was interesting that I would listen to Morgan's perspective of 5th graders as to my 18-year-old seniors. So it wasn't as much a challenge for what I teach as it would be for someone teaching algebra. Can you imagine teaching the quadratic formula virtually? And so hats off to teachers who made it work. Hats off, because I can't imagine trying to do those kind of concepts that the only way those teachers, and they're great teachers, but the only way they've ever done it is on a board in the room. And a lot of what we do in our industry is feedback. I can stand in a room and I can be presenting a unit on whatever, sexual harassment, let's say. And as I teach, I can tell by looking that it's making Johnny and Susie very uncomfortable. And so therefore I would not ask them questions because I could tell this topic was very close to home maybe for them. It's hard to get that feedback through virtual meetings. And so as you teach on Zoom, it was a whole different perspective of, you couldn't just say, well, Haley, what do you think about that? Because Haley might be squirming in her, car listening to this lesson going, I don't want to talk about this. So that hit our industry hard, this whole virtual world, as I guess it did a lot of employers, because a lot of our faculty meetings at my school, crickets. I've never been in a faculty meeting where there's crickets, And so I think from my perspective as a teacher, there was a lot less input during the meetings. Now, it could have been typing in the chat and things like that. So this whole world of this new virtual learning is going to be a huge shift for a lot of teachers. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but sadly, I think if you read the paper yesterday or maybe the day before, there was an article that said 1 in 5 teachers are reconsidering coming back in August because they miss the kids. It's the kids that give you those interactions. And so that's a whole industry of employment in our world, I suppose, that really may see an employment issue, a shortage, because teachers are like, I can't do it this way. I need to be in the room with these kids. So those are kind of my perspectives on the initial crisis of what happened. Was we had to adapt quickly. Some did, some not as well. And some teachers are just like, this is not how I envisioned ever educating children. So.
That's a great perspective. Yes, we had a lot of papers come home just because I have 3 elementary age children. So that was hard keeping the packets together. But I just feel like the teachers did have to learn pretty quickly. The Zoom meetings, we had a couple, but then quickly they learned, how. But I really feel like teachers tried to connect the kids in the best way they could through the virtual meetings. So I just am really proud of all of our schools and how they handled all of this. And I don't know if y'all have seen the chamber video we put out, but we got to interview a couple of the, Denise Whitaker with elementary. I was just like crying, thinking about standing in the school with empty halls, and that they should be filled. And that's been a really big challenge, but I really appreciate the innovation I've seen, not only in education, but everyone across the whole business community trying to learn the technology, working from home and managing that. So, that we all had a huge learning curve there, for sure. But I really appreciate your perspective from an educator's standpoint. So I don't know about you all, but we talked about yesterday with our other panel, just the emotional roller coaster this has been. None of us have ever been through anything like this before. There's been high highs and low lows. And I'm interested to hear, maybe Jennifer, we'll start with you, just what kept you encouraged during this time? Maybe share with us some ways that you kept your perspective going. So I'll turn it over to you.
I think one thing, I don't sit during the day. I don't think I've ever, even when I was 9 months pregnant, did I ever sit at my desk and teach. It's as foreign to me as, speaking Greek, I suppose. I can't do it. And I struggled, Michelle, sitting. I sat behind this computer in this office so many hours a day. It weighed on me. It did. I guess we're all women, and my feet would swell. I've never had that problem in my life, but sitting for a long time. And I think that does a lot on our psyche. I really do. And it was cold, and a lot of it was dreary outside. And I think a lot of people, from what I'm understanding, experience that for the first time. The sitting and not getting up to move, that typical water cooler at the office where you go and take a little break and the baby shower's this afternoon, or, oh my goodness, I'll see you tomorrow at the meeting, or, none of that was happening. And so how did I stay encouraged? I got outside. I had to move. And I think a lot of people, from what I understand, last time we had a Bible study, and one of the couples said, we have walked more together as a couple than we have in our entire 27 years of marriage. And I think a lot of how did I stay encouraged is I got outside. I had a supportive spouse who was sitting in this office with me, 4 feet behind me, our backs to each other, working. And so the encouragement was I got to move. No. I made myself move. That's the difference, I think. And I had someone to move with. And I had a lot of really good professionals who we would bounce ideas off of. Like I said, I had a really good friend. His name is Abner. He teaches up in Canada. And he and I would just bounce ideas off each other. And it was so encouraging to know that people in other countries were going through the same thing. And that encouraged me. So surrounded myself with people who were going through the same thing and stole their ideas, borrowed their ideas, tweaked their ideas, and movement. Really a lot of physical movement by force.
Yeah, I know Sharon mentioned earlier people have been building gardens, and I think we have seen more people getting outside and doing things. And I know everyone says Lowe's has been really busy, so that's definitely a testament too. But Sharon, I'll turn it over to you to share what's been encouraging.
I think Lowe's was my first field trip, and we've all had a lot of time to be on social media and getting all kinds of ideas, or watching House and Garden or something on television, and it's we've decided to do a lot of purging at home and maybe in personal lives as well, that we want to kind of get rid of the clutter and those types of things, but it also helps us to stay very positive, I think, when we get rid of the things in our life that we don't need anymore and maybe are weighing us down for a lot of reasons. And I don't get to spend very much time actually in my house. And I enjoyed that piece of it. And I enjoyed getting to do some things that I usually don't have time to do, maybe over Christmas break or sometime that I might get home for a week or something. But I enjoyed that. But then I also found that it got old pretty quickly. And I really, really miss the socialization of being in either the farm office or being in my office in Louisville and seeing people constantly. And it's because of where our farm is located, we have a lot of folks that just randomly stop by. A lot of customers, a lot of our own landlords and area farmers, that we're friends with. And it just, I am really, really a social person. And I think probably all of us are on this call. And that was a piece that I felt probably about week 2 and 3, like that was sort of my lowest point. I was really, really missing. And we only had to get ready from the waist up if we wanted to. And at first it seems like, I don't know, it was just a different mindset about getting yourself up and ready for work and getting your mind prepared for that as well. And Jennifer, I know, had some family health issues and that type of thing that really added to her level of anxiety, to say the least. And that's there are a lot of folks that had situations like that. It would be difficult enough under regular circumstances, but certainly the last several weeks have been anything but regular. So we've it's been difficult, but I did very much find in my group of executive leadership here in Louisville realized quickly that we had to have a concrete plan for connecting with each other. And we set up very routine and regular Zoom meetings and knew that we had to check in with each other 3 days a week. We talked every day, but we had to be looking at each other's faces and sharing ideas and learning all of this. I wish I'd had your class, Jennifer. I didn't even know what Zoom was.
And now you do.
I know.
Of course.
And I'm so thankful for it. Of course, this is a first world problem, but now I'm getting tired of it. I want to get back. I want to be in a room with the people so you can read their body language and read their faces. And we have not been able to have in-person meetings in a long time now. And I'm involved in several groups that are planning some statewide events. At first, we just kept saying things were postponed. And then we finally had to use the word canceled, which hurt. We just don't like to cancel things. Those are commitments that we made to folks that we do business with. Now I'm trying to see the silver lining, and we are super well planned for 2021 already. So we are so far ahead of the curve. It's unbelievable, but that is really difficult. And just this morning, I had a meeting with the Kentucky State Fair Board. And as you can imagine, we're trying to decide if we can have a state fair. Obviously, it will look very different if you've ever been up during that time. It's a wonderful time of the year, but we cannot have one that would look like it has, since the beginning of time. And that is really, really difficult. There are so many pieces that just break your heart that you can't offer that to the kids showing livestock, to a number of people that are so used to being in in that arena. So that piece of it has been very difficult and having to make some really tough decisions. But we've all found ways to connect, and that's been. I tell you one thing Jennifer said that really hit home with me too is, and we were working with our legislators in Frankfurt. One of our key issues with Kentucky Farm Bureau was rural broadband, and we're looking at that last mile. You know, that person that lives at the end of the lane all by themselves, and somehow everyone close to them has internet and has capabilities to get online, but they don't. They've called every carrier around, and gosh, we're just a few feet from you. Can't get there yet. So this has absolutely championed the need for that, and having a student required to go into the McDonald's parking lot can no longer be acceptable.
Not ideal. Not ideal.
Not something that we can allow moving forward. And I don't think there were really, no one said that was a best case scenario by any means, but this certainly has showcased areas that we need to work on in our communication, in our connectivity, in many, many areas. But again, I'm trying to look at the positives. So I think it really has been able to show us some things moving forward, that next session and as we work throughout the year with legislators, that we know, gosh, those are super important. It won't be hard to get a bill sponsor when we talk about broadband issues next time.
That's a great perspective, and I'm really glad that you guys are taking that. I talked to our judge executive here about the county issues. I know, Jennifer, you mentioned talking to Gina. I mean, that's definitely something that we have got to focus on in Callaway County, not only for, those who live out in the county, but maybe those who want to bring a business here. And, that telework piece is really critical. If we don't have access to the basics of internet, how does that place our county? And, that brings up some other things. I know that you both mentioned new norms, and there's a quote out there, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's like, what norms do we not want to rush back to? Maybe things that were normal before. Now we realize family time is really important. We don't want to rush back to being busy. But I'm just interested, and I'll just open this up to whoever wants to answer it. What do you feel like new norms will be, in your industry or in your personal life? Like, what do you feel like life's going to kind of be like once this sort of shakes out? What are some big changes that you think will adjust as new norms?
I really think being in large crowds of people, that's going to change for a while. And we can, and again, in my meeting this morning, we talked about that, you can't have more than 10 right now. And then there's a date when the number is 50 and that type of thing. But these large gatherings of folks, certainly if you're inside some kind of a facility, it's going to be entirely different now. And our comfort level with doing that. And I'll be honest, I don't think we feel like some of those concerts or some of those social activities and what are as important to us as they were 2 months ago. They just don't carry the same kind of weight. Seeing my grandchildren carries that weight, and it always did. But all of our priorities have shifted. And what's the most important to us now is maybe a total flip. Eating and cooking at home, being able to have your family to have a connection, a personal connection to your family, and actually touch them and get a hold of them means more than being in any large crowd, whether it's in a restaurant or whether it's at a concert or a state fair, anything of that sort. And none of us are willing to jeopardize our health. While we all say we want to get back to normal, again, that's my normal is completely new now. And it's, I have no desire. Now I've been to Walmart and Lowe's, I've been to the grocery. I've done a lot of those kinds of things, but I've protected myself, and I think I've been smart. And it's a whole new way of thinking about the way we live our life.
Jennifer, any thoughts?
Yeah, and this one's hard for me because, again, I think everywhere I go, I have lots of former students, so I cringe when I say things because they're like, I can't believe my teacher just said that. But I think we're going to see a huge new normal of flexibility on deadlines. And I never thought I'd live to see the day when I would say to a student, now it's due April the 2nd, but I took it on May the 4th. And that was hard for me, you guys. It was very difficult as a business teacher whose job was to teach future business leaders to maintain deadlines, and your word is your bond. And if you want your business to thrive, you will meet deadlines. It's important, period, end of sentence. And I'm never going to stop believing that. But I feel like in this new world, I mean, I used to work at Pasco Truck Lines when I graduated Murray State in December, and there was a teaching job that was going to open up at Callaway High in August, but I had to have a job, had to have money, and so Pasco Truck Lines took a risk on me and put me in a great position. I learned a lot about logistics and traveling of merchandise and deadlines. That's how that business operated. And this new norm that I think we're going to look at is going to be one where deadlines, yes, I think they're going to exist. And like in your world, Sharon, there's going to be deadlines. But I think we're going to see a flexibility of, okay. I think we're going to hear, okay, more than we ever heard before. And I think that may be okay in some instances, some not. So I don't know how the business world's going to react. I guess we'll watch globally how it reacts, but small businesses may be totally different in their ability to say, oh, okay, it's going to be late, as opposed to a big company who's waiting on a supply chain. So to answer your question, one thing that I'm looking at for the new normal is having to take a deep breath and being okay with maybe something being late getting to me in the world of deadlines.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, especially right now since the childcare piece is really difficult for getting so many women in particular back to work. I know maybe like a single parent situation, or even maybe the husband's gotten to go back to work, but someone has to take care of the children. And there's, I don't know the percentage, but women make up a huge piece of the workforce. And so I know they're ready to get back to work and to the new norms. And I mean, you can only handle your children for so long. I mean, let's admit that as a parent too, surely. My mom can only handle small doses of mine. I understand. But, I think we're all, have to adjust to the changes that, maybe there is more flexibility or a little bit more graciousness when we all get to go back to norm, because we've all experienced this extremely difficult thing together, like in life, we've all come out hopefully different and changed, that we can be gracious with our coworker, or more empathetic with them because maybe they are a woman, they've had to have their children, or they've had to deal with this situation. And like you said, I feel like just maybe a different level of empathy for different circumstances or situations. But yeah, I mean, there are some sectors that need those hard deadlines, no doubt. But yeah, I just feel like you're probably right there. Just this level of, graciousness that we've needed all along, because we as Americans just work, and the better is kind of how it's been. But so as we close,
I suspect that it's been difficult for Jennifer and I, because we're both pretty driven, and so it's been a challenge for us to let ourselves become as flexible as we need to be.
Amen.
And that's really, really been something that I've had to work on, and just like she said, take a deep breath, and things are going to go on. There's a new normal, but we've just got to learn how to do this. I'm heading up a group for Farm Bureau. It's called Vision 100. We've just had our 100th anniversary, and we're looking toward the future. And it's a very young group. Most everybody's about Haley's age in the group. So we've had a lot of dogs, a lot of cats, a lot of small children running along the back of the, and while you know, as we would say in your class, Jennifer, you would say, oh, that's not as professional as we would want to be,
Right.
but we have absolutely had to be flexible with that. And it was impossible to bring everyone to Louisville and have an in-person meeting. And we've been able to do these Zoom meetings and connect with each other and totally open up the way we want to connect with our membership in the future. Who would have thought, you know, a couple of months ago that we would be having these conversations? So it's, yeah, we've had to challenge ourselves most of all.
That's a great perspective. And, you know, we appreciate your views and hearing from you guys today. But any other things that have come to your mind while we've been on this conversation, or things you'd like to say in closing? I'll just kind of open it up. If there's anything else you want to share, maybe to those watching or who will, you know, watch this in the future. So anything else you want to add?
I was talking with Michelle and Haley earlier, Sharon. I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of businesses are going to need PD in a lot of these areas of this. You know, they've learned a lot of it at home on their own, but in this new norm, like you said, I've said in meetings where there's, you know, mama's trying to have the baby in their lap and the dog barking and the fingernails getting filed while they didn't know their camera was on. That one was fun. But I think a lot of companies are going to have to understand, if we're going to do this to our employees and they're going to be representing our company in these meetings, maybe we need to have some lunch and learns on some soft skills and some virtual meeting skills. And I think we're going to see a push for that. And I think that's going to be a need. That's just my opinion. I think if companies don't do it, I think they're going to regret it. That's one thing that I've thought about, a new world, because we've heard about soft skills for years. Oh, they may be really smart up here, but they don't know how to clean up after themselves in the break room. They don't know how to shut a door when they leave, you know, whatever, those kind of things. I think we're going to see a need for some PD in this virtual world of representing your company on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, good point. My son that lives here in Louisville works for Anthem, and he works from home every day. His basement is his office and has an office suite set up. So he's been totally amazed that the rest of us have taken a while to get used to it. I do this every day, Mom. Yeah. And he has and does. And just now the childcare thing, you know, was new to him, having a second grader that sort of opened some issues there. But it's just like every student learns differently. Some employees have been extremely productive at home, and others need the socialization and need to get back. And not every business, you can't drive a tractor from home yet. So we still have to have folks to actually come in. Not every business can really connect in this way. When we certainly have learned to make the best of a terrible situation by doing as much as we could online. But that's it doesn't take the place of what our regular jobs are. And I think it'll be important moving forward that we find a really nice blend. And it will include, I feel like every meeting will now include an online component. And if you're not, especially those that require a great deal of travel. And I serve on a board with the EPA administrator, Andrew Wheeler, and we've just had some discussions about things coming up in the summer. And the letters now include, if you are not comfortable traveling, here are the, you know, guidelines, you can log on and this type of thing. So I think that going into the future, maybe forever, but certainly for the foreseeable future, a few years, that type of thing, that is going to be the new norm. And that will be a component, whether you are at home on maternity leave, recovering from an illness of some kind, or it's just the place you choose to do your work from. And if your company will allow that and your personal life will allow that, then kudos to you.
Yeah, I think the Chamber, we're a huge event organization, you know, across the state, the country. You know, the Kentucky Chambers, you know, leading up some virtual bus to businesses this fall. So I think we're all going to have to get innovative. And like you said, our events may look different. Our professional development opportunities may become virtual. So I am interested to see how that changes, our travel, business travel specifically, in the future. But I will say, I know everyone is booking beach vacations because
$39 flight to, let's see, what, I'm going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, $39 round trip flight.
Wow.
I've never been, so let's go. I'm not going to the beach, but let's go. As soon as this world opens up, Sharon, I'm going.
There you go. Well, we've got a lot of credit currently because we've basically
Yeah.
said we're not flying till the end of the year. So we, there's a lot of airline credit hanging out there for us. And one of these days, I hope it's somewhere warm.
Yes, I'm ready for
Me too.
with the Florida sunshine. We actually had a Disney trip booked and we rescheduled. But just following even them and how that looks, those large crowd gatherings, it's just going to be so different for a while. And but
Can I interject one thing real fast? Along those lines, I'll play the devil's advocate because we are. My family's going on vacation next week because we can, and the state where we're going is allowing us to go. We feel safe. That's our choice. I do feel like, though, when this world does start opening up, just like I loved how when we first shut down, the chamber was sending all these things, letting us know who's open for delivery, who's open for this, call in, all those things. And now that, I think it was last week, Haley, I'm sure it was some of your brilliance, it was like the constant posting of who's opening now, 33%, whose dine-in is open. I think as business professionals, if we feel comfortable, we need to now be the ones giving business, doing our part to help the local economy, the national economy, putting our money in these businesses that are taking the risk to open up to save themselves. There's so many people that are going to lose everything if we don't be the ones to get out there and help them. And I think it's a two-way street. And again, yes, personal safety, but also some personal responsibility to help those businesses who are doing what they can. And we've relied on them in the past. I'd like to see us as professionals also be the ones to be some of the first ones to say, we're back. You're back, we're back. And I think that sets a good example for the community.
And all four of us can truly say this is our community. We love it. We care about it deeply. And we want every piece of it possible to succeed. And we do feel a responsibility. I dare say everyone that's listening to this feels that kind of responsibility. So that's so important, Jennifer.
Yeah. Did y'all see the pictures from the farmer's market on Saturday? I didn't need anything, so I didn't go. But I mean, I just was like, oh, these pictures are beautiful from the farmer's market. And so that's something that every town has, and our community has that. And I thought, I'm going Saturday. I don't care if I need anything or not. I'm going Saturday because those vendors have been anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for thought.
No, that's great. We have one of the best farmers markets around. So I'm really proud of all the people who are vendors within just downtown for putting that together. It's just a wonderful thing. And I didn't make it Saturday either, but I want to go this Saturday.
I'll see you there.
Okay, we'll be there. So socially distanced and all the stuff. But we really appreciate you guys. Do we have any questions, Haley, or any suggestions? Anything?
We have someone that just commented, thanks for talking about every one of us who have a responsibility in a little way to help support those that are trying to open and stay open.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and we keep sharing as a chamber together, stronger together. I've definitely gained some weight over this whole thing just from eating out so much because I feel personally responsible to help support, our local restaurants. These are my friends, my colleagues. I've worked with them for how many years now since I went to college here. A lot of them have been here. Dumplings, their rolls. I mean, what would our community be like without these restaurants and small businesses that bring people here? So I have personally eaten out a lot. So I do feel like, but it takes all of us. Obviously, our family can't support the local economy. So that's all have to be in this together. So I do really appreciate you sharing that. But we are done for today. So I really, really appreciate you guys. Two amazing women who I looked up to tremendously. I know Haley would say the exact same thing. So we hope you have a wonderful day. The sun is shining, so get out there, and we hope to see you at a local restaurant or shopping local or at the farmers market this week. So you guys have a wonderful day, and we appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us. Bye.
Thank you.